Hello. Actually, I don't have something planned, but maybe we should start again.
A few moments later.
Hello. Welcome to the Monkey Patching Podcast, where we go bananas over all things data and AI. Hey, Bart.
Hey.
How are you? Long time.
Long time no see, indeed. Where have you been?
I've been where to start? I actually, after since we recorded, we went to Sicily together.
Yeah, true.
We went to a wedding. We danced.
We did a very good performance, right?
Yeah, the best.
Yeah.
I think they're still talking about it.
We did a classic Backstreet Boys.
Not only singing but also interpretive dancing as well. Yeah, shout out to Ardalan, our friends Ardalan and Jonas.
Yeah,
that composed our troupe. Not gonna give the name, but yeah. And after that, the weekend after, actually, I went to Japan for my honeymoon. Went to Tokyo, Kyoto, Okinawa. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Sounds cool. Never been there.
Never
What was of those 3 weeks the coolest thing? If you need to choose one.
I think if I had to choose one, but it's just to tell people more. But like, there's this park in Nara, it's like a city in near Kyoto, that they have like deers just walking around. So like just deers, you can go, you can pet them and stuff. Sometimes they walk a bit, like whatever. And if you give them food and you bow to them, the deers bow back to you.
What?
Yeah, like, for real. Like you go like this, and then like, yeah, okay, yes,
really?
Yeah, really. I can show you a video afterwards.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the.
They really were conditioned to.
I think so.
Wow.
They really go like this and like, okay, yeah, give me the stuff. So that was pretty cool.
That's funny.
But
it's
I think it's different.
Like a Japan meme.
Yeah, exactly. It's like even the deers are polite, It's like, but no, yeah, but it was very different. Like Tokyo, I feel like it's like huge city, a lot of people, but it's efficient as it can be.
Yeah,
a lot of metro, a lot of stuff. Very interested to see like a city in that dimension, because I'm from Sao Paulo, which is also a big city, but things don't work well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Then we went to Kyoto, which is more cultural. There's like a lot of temples. There's this, there's that, more nature. And then we went to Okinawa, where on my mother's side, my family comes from Okinawa. So I learned a lot about the history. I was even able to track some names and stuff. So that was also very interesting. So I think for me, it was very more meaningful, the last part of the trip, the Okinawa one.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to just kind of give like a fun, like, oh, did you know this happens? I think I'll say the deers.
Nice.
It's cool. And then I came back, and then I went to a training in Chamonix in France, border with Italy, and really close to Switzerland as well.
And what did you do?
So there was a leadership training program, where we kind of follow like rescuers, like mountain rescuers. They talk a bit about the experience, they simulate some things, and then we reflect a bit on how these leadership traits can be transferred to other, like, the workplace.
Okay, cool.
Very cool. It was very, very cool. Very intense as well. I feel like it was also very stressful. Like everything's urgent,
It was really in the mountains.
Yeah, it was really in the mountains.
In alpine terrain.
Yes. Yes, it was really cool. They still have snow, because I came back 2 days ago, and people are still skiing there.
Yeah, cool.
I was like, this is crazy, yeah? This is crazy. What about you?
I've been a bit of everything and a bit of nothing. I think that's the best way to summarize it.
Okay.
Well, for the people that don't know, I quit my job 2-ish months ago.
Yes.
Right. I stopped the date routes, and now I'm a bit looking towards the future, thinking what I want to do. And also in that context, I already have a lot of lunches and dinners and events that I go to, and so I'm keep myself enjoyed with that.
Yeah,
and a bit chilling. Right.
Yeah.
I went cycling in the morning at 9 o'clock.
You're like, never.
I've never done this during the week.
I was like, wow, I didn't even know.
Yeah,
everything's empty. It's like, it's a new tempo, I guess. Huh? You enjoying it?
Certainly.
Are you enjoying this new pace?
What I very quickly realized is that I need a goal in life.
You need something, yeah.
I need a goal in life.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I'm at the moment finding that, let's say, that professional goal in life.
Yeah, I see. Cool. And here we are. episode 1 before this is the second recorded episode, but I'm calling this
Epi-
episode 1.
No, it's gonna make it difficult.
You think
Oh
so?
no, because you said
Before it was episode 0.
yeah, but it doesn't work.
Because like what?
Yeah, we
the-
like for the people that followed the first one, we agreed that we're gonna be 0 indexed, that we're gonna start at 0.
like a good developer
But
but
but the publishing platform that we use
doesn't allow for that.
doesn't allow for it.
Really?
So we're episode 2 today.
Okay, but it fits so nicely because this is the first real where we bring content, right? We talk about these things.
Just accept them, Mila. Accept them. Some things in life you need to accept.
I know. I mean, I'll try. I'll do my best. But so maybe for the people like, if you haven't heard us before, the idea is that we usually stay up to date with what's happening in the tech world, data and AI, and all these things, and things that we would normally already talk about, like share with each other. And we write them down. And then we have some, the idea here is to have a quick overview, and then we can discuss a bit what do you think about it, right? So,
Yeah.
You want to double click there?
So what we try to do for this podcast is we have a chat channel between Marilo and me, and whenever we read interesting stuff during the week, we just post a link in there so the other person reads it as well. And before the episode, we select 8 articles and we go over them. We're going to we do this a bit more formal than the previous podcast that we had, the Data Topics podcast, in the sense that we're going to read a small piece of the article, a bit more formal summary, and then we're going to have more of a freestyle discussion on this.
Yes. So would you like to start?
Let's do this. We're starting with DuckLake. So DuckDB's new DuckLake format proposes shifting all Lakehouse metadata into a regular SQL database, so open format data lakes can gain true transactional speed and simplicity. DuckLake reimagines what a Lakehouse format should look like, the authors write, arguing it eliminates the maze of JSON files and external catalog services. If adopted, DuckLake could let organizations treat Parquet-backed blob storage like a fast ACID-compliant warehouse without vendor lock-in.
So break it down for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo, right?
Yes.
DuckDB,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, but maybe for the people that don't know, one-liner.
It's an one-liner. It's a very it's I would say a one-node analytics engine. So
Okay.
it can query your data in typically a non-distributed way. It's not built for like typical analytics you do in a distributed way, like Spark. A lot of people know Spark. DuckDB takes a bit of a different approach. It works on a single node, and it scales basically vertically. Like if you have more memory, you can do more. You can do stuff quicker. So DuckDB is just that. Like it's an analytics engine, but it can read from a lot of different sources, and it can write to a lot of different sources. And it is also highly efficient. So you would say it's not distributed, so it's not really, let's say, a relevant player here, but it is very much a relevant player. Like it's, I think, for a lot of companies, analytics pipelines, like for, I think, 80% would be a fit for DuckDB, and that's probably still understating it.
Yeah.
But now what DuckDB did is that they have a new output format, which they call DuckLake. And what they basically do is that, like a lot of the, let's say, modern data lakes, they write out in a certain format. Like in this case, it's Parquet files.
Okay.
Right, which is very well known.
Yeah.
The different thing that they do is that they, next to Parquet files, so in order to understand like where in your Parquet files which data is, you typically need a lot of metadata. And you either write that metadata to disk, or you have a catalog where you keep this metadata, and you need this metadata to basically query the data that you have, or to insert the new data. And what DuckDB did is, and it sounds very simple how I say this now, but what they basically did is that they created a SQL store, like a more or less traditional database to store this metadata.
Ah, okay.
Which makes that it becomes very fast to read and write this metadata, which is typically a bottleneck. So your whole data lake becomes much more performant.
Okay. But then it's like, is it still data lake, or you actually have an engine for the metadata?
You have a traditional database for the
Just for the metadata.
metadata. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a mix. Like you still have like just files.
It's a bit of a mix. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
And
that
then-
basically means that you can treat your data lake basically as a modern data warehouse, like
Cool.
because it becomes very performant query. And
Yeah.
Oh.
So if using something like DuckDB normally is for, like they say, like OLAP, right? So more analytics, so it's more
Mhm.
reading.
Yeah.
Right. If you have for writing stuff, you're probably not the best, right? Because you. So I think that this is the way I'm thinking. And actually, I spent some time thinking about it. Like if you have a simple application, a POC, you couldn't just have like a Parquet file and pretend that's your database. Or like even if you have like 3 users or whatever, maybe that's not the best use case because you're also writing data to it.
Well, it's I would say when you use it for, let's say, what a typical data lake or a lake house or
Yeah.
whatever use is used for, which is large amounts of data,
Yeah.
then it is efficient in writing. So it is very efficient in
Hmm.
writing thousands, millions, whatever amount of rows and the metadata for that.
I see.
But it is not efficient at all if you're just gonna add one row or
Yeah,
upsert
update
a
one.
row.
Yeah, I see.
That's
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
But I would say that's not necessarily specific to DuckLake, right?
Yeah.
Data lakes or lake houses in general.
Cool. Do you think this was a problem, or do you think this was gonna be like? Is this because I mean I hear what you're saying, so it's more performant. You can write the metadata faster, but I'm a bit quote unquote surprised that this was an issue. Not that an issue, but an improvement point. Like no one was complaining about it, but when this was released, I heard a lot of noise about it.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's when you explain it, it sounds very simple, right? Like it's basically just using an actual SQL database as a metadata catalog.
Yeah.
I think it got a lot of notice because it's very simple, but also because DuckDB is still very big, right?
Yeah,
especially in engineering circles,
for sure.
And it's interesting to see these kind of, let's say, simple inventions that do have a big impact on efficiency, right? Without like having to reinvent the world
but
to do this.
In a lot of ways, I feel like those are actually more clever than the very complicated things.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you see a problem and you see a simple solution for it, to me, I give you more credit for it.
Yeah.
Cool. What else do we have? Let's see.
We have something from Mistral.
Yes.
Over to you.
So Mistral AI has unveiled Magistral, its first reasoning-centric language model, releasing a 24 billion parameter open vision alongside a more powerful enterprise tier. As the company puts it, and I quote, Magistral is designed to think things through in ways familiar to us, offering transparent multilingual chain of thought and 10 times faster replies in Le Chat. By open sourcing the small model and touting competitive benchmarks, Mistral positions itself as a nimble challenger to the big LLM providers. So this is the first. Actually, I'm a bit surprised actually when I saw this because this is from June 10th, so this is kind of recent, right?
This is kind of recent, yeah.
And I'm a bit surprised that this is the first reasoning model that they have.
Yeah.
So maybe a recap, like reasoning model, it just means that you ask something to the LLM, and then the LLM doesn't just give you the answer. It actually will spit some things out, and then it will use the things that it spit out with your question to actually answer your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's indeed like a simple way to explain this.
Because because I know that people
and like spitting something out, like it's the reasoning about your question.
Yeah,
right?
I'm trying purposely to avoid like terminology, like to not anthropomorphize, like because I know in ChatGPT they had the thinking thing, and I remember talking to even mathematicians, like people that were very educated and could understand the mathematics behind it.
But it basically more or less tries a bit to broaden the context. Like if I would ask a model, who is Murilo Cunha?
Yeah.
No, who is Murilo Cunha, the machine learning engineer?
Yeah.
If I would ask that, and the reasoning part starts, the reasoning tokens come out. Like what you will typically see is like something like, this person is probably not asking about Murilo Cunha, the famous soccer player.
Yeah.
So we need to look at something else. Like you
Yeah.
get a bit like questions on your question
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
better guide like
Yeah.
what the answer will be.
And actually, I think, well, maybe it's a bit of a side note, so I don't want to go too much on that tangent. But I remember like early, well, maybe 2 years ago, maybe a bit more, that one way to test LLM outputs was to use like self-reflection.
Mhm.
So it's like the output, the LLM will give you something, and then you ask like, is this hallucinated? And
Yeah. Mhm.
they actually could empirically show that a lot of the times you could actually sense it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think reasoning models, they kind of do that. That's why a lot of times the output is better. Because it's almost like they already do this self-reflection by itself, right? But anyways, so this is the model from Mistral. So this is the French competitor. Have you tried this, Bart?
I haven't tried it.
You have not tried this, but you're disappointed.
Well, I'm disappointed because, like, if you look at the benchmarks,
Yes.
it basically on all the benchmarks scores worse than DeepSeek R1.
Yeah.
And DeepSeek R1 today is, I want to say, 4-ish months old.
Yeah.
Around something around that, right? 4 or 5-ish months.
Which is like 70 years old in LLM land.
120, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, like because I think the only worthy competitor when it comes to building LLMs we have in Europe is Mistral.
In Europe, yes.
And then why is it? It's a pity to see that it is so hard to release something in Europe that is on par with what today is considered state of the art.
So you think like that the data protection in Europe is
No, I'm not even saying that it has anything to do specifically with any regulation, but I just mean like we only have one serious player in Europe, and they're not able to build something that is on par with what is today considered the best.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Even
Which
here, so
really makes me wonder about like what is our competitiveness on this going forward.
Yeah, that is true. It's true. It's yeah, it feels like we're behind, right?
And you could say like the alternatives. It's good that we at least have one.
Yeah.
Right. It's it feels a bit more. Something built in Europe is maybe safer to trust because it probably does adhere to all European regulation, and it's easier for governments, for financial institutions, like to use these type of services.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what does it mean for the future? Because you can only be like so much behind if you want to be relevant in this game.
Yeah, it's true. I also, well, the other hope you can have is that this is just benchmarks and maybe the vibe checks, it's close. Because it's also hard, like, yeah, we're looking at numbers here, but sometimes the numbers don't reflect the actual user feeling, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true, yeah. That's a fair point.
Yeah, and I think on the benchmark here, they show actually all three. Like, they actually, like their medium model seems like it's or actually, how am I reading this wrong? So because in the benchmarks here that I'm showing on the screen, they have 83%, for example, for IME 25, 83%, 72%, and 64%. But they are different model sizes, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to read. They're different model sizes.
Yeah, so they have Mistral Medium 3, Magistral Medium, which is higher, I guess. But then Mag at 64. Yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, but I guess the what they're trying to say here is like, yeah, we're doing worse in some things, but for others, if you take the big model, we're doing better. But it doesn't feel very impressive, right?
It doesn't feel impressive at all.
Yeah. No. I was like, never gonna use this shit. Yeah, pity. Yeah, but I mean, again, still waiting. Like, I hope I'm hoping that one day someone will be like, oh yeah, I'm using Mistral and it's really great for this or that, and like, yeah, let's see.
I hope so. I think the very good thing about Mistral is that it doesn't use an actual open source license on these models. I think Apache too.
Ah, really?
Yeah. Which is of course much more closer to an open source license than the one that Llama is using.
Yeah, true, true. What else we have? We have more AI later, more LLMs later. But what do we have now, Bart? The hidden time bomb in the text code that's fueling mass tech layoffs.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's also a bit of a technical one. So I'll introduce you to the article.
Yes.
So a little noticed tweak to the US tax code section 174 that took effect in 2022 made R&D costs dramatically more expensive, quietly spurring hundreds of thousands of tech layoffs. One startled executive admitted, "I work on these tax write-offs and still hadn't heard about this." Underscoring how the change the blindsided companies large and small. With repeal efforts now winding through Congress, the episode shows how obscure fiscal fine print can ripple through innovation hubs and local economies alike.
All right, break it down.
So there is apparently a bill that was designed in, if I remember correctly, 2017.
Okay.
And that came into effect in 2022. And since then, we've seen a lot of mass layoffs, which I think a lot of them have been attributed to post-COVID reducing after the hiring spree.
Huh.
Where now there are voices that this new regulation is actually, and there are it's not really clear cut, but there's a lot of people that think that this regulation also has an impact on why these tech giants are potentially firing in the US and hiring somewhere else. So what it means is that, and I'm going because I'm not into this this tech regulation stuff at all, but I'm going to try to explain. So what you could do before this is that you if you work on an R&D type projects, which a lot of these tech giants, like if they develop something new or a new feature, like it's very easy to define something as R&D, of course.
Yeah.
Is that you could basically get a reduction on the amount of tax you could pay on your profits.
Okay.
So how is it calculated?
Yes.
Is that normally you can you have your revenue, everything that you made that year, and then all relevant costs you subtract to that.
Yes.
Where what is left is your profit.
Yes.
And based on the profit, you have to pay a tax according to a certain tax rate.
Yes.
Right. What used to be the case is that for R&D projects is that you could allocate that as a cost for 100% of the cost that you made.
Okay.
So if you made 100 euros cost in R&D,
Yeah.
you could deduct that from your revenue.
Okay.
Meaning that your profit gets smaller and you have to pay less tax.
Ah, okay. I
Right?
see.
And now what with this new legislation is that basically that you need to activate the R&D on your balance sheet. So basically it means that the company is doing R&D, so it's building some value.
Okay.
And the cost for this value that we're creating, like you can't write it off in one go. You need to do it over, I think, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So if you, let's say it's 4 years, normally you could deduct this 100 euros from your revenue to get to your profit and the tax that you need to pay on that. Now you can only deduct 20 if it's over 4 years.
I see.
Meaning that you need to pay way more tax.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you
That's how I understand it.
Okay. So then people are like, and because they need to pay more, but this is not new legislation, or is this something?
This is since 2022, so it's relatively new.
Okay.
Oh.
So then, since that, because the cost for R&D are higher, people are just cutting it off
and potentially moving to other geographic locations.
Oh.
And apparently, like when you read the reports on this, like it also like caught a lot of the big companies off guard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder how these things happen, right? Like they have a lot of people, expensive lawyers looking into these things, no?
I would say,
yeah. And where do they go actually now?
Well, I think there's a lot of these things going on. Like there was some discussion that this is going to Europe, but you have a lot of different things going on at the same time. So apparently, this is a driver in it. This I think there was probably overhiring, like just post COVID.
Yeah.
We have the whole AI revolution coming up.
Yeah.
Which makes people. I think the whole AI stuff today makes a lot of companies very hesitant. Like it's a bit let's wait and see
Yeah.
before we hire new people.
Yeah. I
And
mean, you see even big companies like Meta, like tech companies that have a reputation making
yeah.
claims about these things. Yeah.
And but even that, like also the AI stuff, like there are a lot of drivers that make that the job market today is, I think, difficult for engineers. And this is very, of course, this is very anecdotal what I'm going to say, but I've heard a lot of people that graduated September. Of course, I'm talking Belgium here.
Yeah.
That had either had to search very long
Yeah.
for a job or are still searching.
Yeah.
And that is, I've never really known this in the last 10 years within this, like within this field.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
And it's very, of course, it's very anecdotal, and it's also, especially in Belgium, like it takes a long time for all these numbers to get published to actually see like what does it do. Like there's a bit of a lack on the census data there, but
yeah. But I mean, I also get that feeling, even though like not me personally, right? Like not firsthand for me. I mean, yeah, I've been employed for a while, but you also see like on Reddit, like you see like some posts there, some people saying like, oh yeah, I've been studying computer science and I cannot find a job. And I don't know if maybe there's a bias as well because they also read articles about it and they feel more at ease to make these posts as well. So maybe there's some ripple effects there. But like you also see articles of people saying more, this is more from the US now, saying that the software engineering golden era is kind of over. That because I feel like a few years ago everyone would say like, you're studying computer science, you get a job, like it's fine, like you're done, you're figured out for life. I've even seen posts, I think already, I think in Belgium even, that there was a kid saying like, I've committed so much of my life for this and now this is all going thrown away. It's like almost like it was a sacrifice, right? Which to me is also a bit the wrong way to look at it, but it does feel a bit more like this.
And let's be realistic with what is happening with AI assisted coding. I mean, if you're a very good software engineer today and you use something like Cursor or Cloud Code or whatever, like you're 5 times more efficient.
Yeah,
you get more done with less time, and it simply results in smaller teams.
Yeah, and I think also if you're a junior and you don't, because I feel like now this, like if you're experienced, it really propels you forward.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're a junior, you can really, it's gonna make you shoot yourself in the foot.
I think if you're, I would. It's
almost like giving a gun to someone experienced. Do they know what to do with it?
I would say if you're experienced, it's really an enabler. Like it makes you very way stronger than you were.
Yeah.
But I think you have the same effect with someone that is young and is very passionate.
Oh yeah, true.
But if you have someone that is very passive on learning,
I think
then it becomes hard. Yeah.
I think if someone that is curious, that will want to know the why of things and try to understand what's good and what's bad. But I feel like the thing is, a lot of people that use these AI assisted coding tools, they use it because it's like it's lazy. It's not like it's a bit the opposite of curiosity, you know, like you don't want to do it, so you just tell someone else to do it. No,
it's one way of looking at it. Yeah,
I mean that's how I feel. I feel like a lot of the times when the AI assisted coding is brought up, is like, I mean, there's even stories, right? Like the guy that created a business about it, and then turns out there were keys on his code, hard coded, and then like it's like, I didn't know how to code, but now I don't have to learn it because this thing will do it for me.
Not the way to,
you know. So, but I agree. I think if you still have the developer spirit, let's say, you're still trying to understand things, what makes things good and what makes things bad. I think it would take some, and I think it's a skill as well. I don't think it's just like you need to learn how to use it as well. I feel like I don't really know that well still.
I think the difficult thing about at least where we're at today with AI assisted coding is that it moves very quickly. And like I would say every other month, you need to change your tactic to be really at the frontier of where this is going. And that's of like that experimenting with new stuff, etc. Like I don't think that is your typical standard engineer.
Yeah,
I think that's like curiosity and doing new stuff and failing and falling on your nose and standing up and being victorious. It fits a few people, but it's not for everybody, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But at the same time, that is very much where we're at, because it's moving so quickly. So from the moment you learn something, it's 2 months later it's outdated. But you need that experience to really build a feeling on.
Yes,
to really build your toolkit basically today.
Yeah, one thing that I was talking to someone the other day, that there was the prompt engineering, I think maybe 2 years ago, maybe. But I also feel like even the prompts, right? Like they evolve kind of quickly. Like, because I remember before it was like, yeah, you should really say you're an expert in this, and then like, yeah, but then there were models that were already creating these things, and then like it moves very fast, right? So I feel like even the prompting, because the whole idea of prompt engineering and like the prompt management, and you can share prompts with people and all these things. But indeed, if it moves very quickly, or if it changes so much from one model to another, maybe it's better for you to just always be descriptive, right? But then you don't need a prompt management tool for this. But yeah, we're gonna talk more about AI later. So, because also you mentioned Cloud Code, we'll put a pin on that.
Well, let's go to that one, right? It's maybe
let's do it then. So, and it's my turn, no?
Yes.
So, introducing Claude 4. Anthropic's Claude 4 family, Opus 4 and Sonnet 4, promises state-of-the-art coding, extended tool use, and improved memory for multi-hour agent workflows. The post touts that, and I quote, Claude Opus 4 is the world's best coding model, citing 72.5% SWE, bench score, and new parallel tool execution by keeping prices steady and expanding availability across AWS, Google, and its own API. Anthropic claims to cement Claude as developers' go-to frontier model. This one looked more impressive.
Yeah. This one I did try. Did you try it?
I didn't try yet. No, because also I was like, traveling and all these things, so I didn't get as much time.
So this was released, I want to say 2-ish weeks ago. Maybe 3.
May 22. Yeah.
And we were at a moment where, when it comes to coding, because I use this very much in the context of coding, where at that moment in time, I would say Google Gemini 2.5 Pro was considered a bit the best for coding.
Yeah.
This one came out, and I've used the chat. I've used the chat functionality.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very good.
Yeah.
Sonnet is the lighter version. Opus is the bigger model.
Chat, you mean like just asking questions about the code, or
no? I mean just like with the chat interface.
Yeah.
Like feels very good. Like I can't really say that I've noticed a difference with 3.7. Just using it in a chat way. Opus 4, I haven't really found, like, I don't really notice that it's much better than Sonnet when I just interactively chat with it, ask it to make a report or something.
Yeah.
But apparently, again, anecdotal stuff I read, is that it's really excels when, like, it's apparently very context hungry. So from the moment that you throw a lot of different data to it, let's say reports or meeting notes that you're interested in, and you ask it to like distill insights from that, it's apparently really outshines a lot of different other models. It's apparently very context hungry. That's really when you notice that it's
context hungry, but also it can digest the content.
Exactly.
Yeah. Context.
Yeah. And when it comes to coding, so what I actually did at that point, so I was using Klein, which is a VS Code extension where you can use all these models. I actually switched to Claude Code, which is a CLI that comes from Anthropic.
Yeah.
That uses mainly, it's not very transparent, but mainly Sonnet and Opus 4 under the hood.
Okay.
And it is ridiculously good.
So how does it, if you had to explain, is it a CLI tool?
It's a CLI tool, and it's basically a chat interface that has access to all your files and can write files and can search and whatever.
And then you just say, like, on the CLI on the terminal, you say do this, do that, and then you change the files for you, and then you look at the files afterwards.
Do this, do that, and then you can say auto approve every edit, or I want to see every edit that you do before, and then I want to explicitly approve it. So you have a bit of a choice. So how I typically use it in my workflow, so I have, like, on one screen I have my VS Code editor, And next to that, a little bit smaller, like on the same screen, I have Cloud Code.
Ah, okay. And then you just, as the Cloud Code, the terminal is changing the files, you actually see this real time on the VS Code.
And it is like, it feels very, very, very strong. And one of the things that I think makes it very strong is that, well, it uses the state-of-the-art models, Opus and Sonnet 4. That is one thing, but also like it's very good at search. So it's very quickly find files that are relevant. And it's also very good, and it links a bit to search, at replacing lines in a file. So what you typically run into with Cursor or Klein or whatever, when you are editing very large files, it typically like replaces within file. So you say, okay, that only that line or those two lines I want to replace with something else. That makes it very efficient. It's very fast. If that fails, like if something doesn't match, then it starts rewriting the whole file. And when it starts rewriting a file of, let's say, 600 lines, it typically goes wrong. And what Cloud Code is very, very good in is that if it fails a first time by using their simple replace and file, it starts using other CLI tools.
Really?
They use a regex tool to find very precise instructions to where is this original line in the file, and then basically enhance the context to get good replacement in the instructions. So I've never had it fail to do partial updates. I never had it to go to write a full file.
So then the Cloud Code is like in the terminal. It has access to files, but it also has access to other CLI tools.
All the CLI tools, the web, etc.
Oh wow,
that's very strong. Very strong.
Yeah, another thing that I thought it was interesting. So it does feel more. I'm gonna say the word agentic here because I don't like to say this because I feel like it's very bloated. But like you can actually have tools, right? We mentioned now like the CLI, web browsing, access to files. So every time I say agentic, that's what I mean, just to be very concrete. But even on the benchmarks here, they had, I mean, they're benchmarking specifically like parallel tool calling or like agentic terminal coding or stuff like that, right? Like which also feels like it's another step in the direction.
Right,
like it's more specific.
These new models, like they support this better, and these capabilities are very strong in the context of
exactly. And I feel like it's so like addition to extended thinking with tool use. So that's the reasoning that we mentioned earlier: parallel tool execution, memory improvements, blah blah blah. So yeah, it's a very clear signal, right, that you're walking towards the more agentic things. That's what they're focusing. And Anthropic really does feel like they are catering more for the developer community.
And already for a long time, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Like I think they're leading the Gen AI coding space.
Yeah, but even when they were still at 3.5, I remember everyone was saying like, yeah, if when I want to get shit done, I just go for 3.5. Like,
exactly.
They fly around, but they go to 3.5.
And but maybe also relevant in that space because I think like they're very good at Gen AI assisted coding. Now have their own tool with Cloud Code. But I think the others are not sitting around. So what OpenAI actually also recently did is that they bought Windsurf.
I saw that,
which is also an AI AI-driven IDE.
It's like a cursor,
a bit of a cursor
Copilot alternative.
For $3 billion.
Yeah.
So let's see what they do with it.
Maybe what did you think of that? The price tag.
Honestly, all these prices are so crazy. It's hard for me to reason about these type of. It's I think Windsurf is something that is still very young, right? Like it's only a few years old.
And Windsurf, is it a VS Code fork or no?
Good question. I don't know, to be honest.
Not sure. I know Cursor is a VS Code fork.
Cursor is,
yeah, but I'm also wondering, like, okay, it's a lot of money, and what are they gonna do with it? Like, it's a big investment, but what do they gain from it?
Well, I think instead of just providing a hopefully good model that can be used for coding, like you can, instead of just doing the model, you can have like the whole tool chain and then ask for enterprise licenses and these kind of things.
I see. Yeah, true. I also heard I listened on a podcast that Zed also has some AI features.
Yeah,
But Z is interesting because they really built everything from scratch.
yeah.
But
But I have a feeling the Z hype is over. I don't hear about
yeah,
lot
yeah,
about it
yeah.
anymore.
I don't think so either. It was short lived, huh?
It was just before the whole AI hype happened.
Because it's written in Rust. That's that's,
That's
why
why
it was,
it's
yeah, that's why there was a peak and then like it's gone. But yeah, but I mean on that podcast they actually mentioned some because I think the terminal because they built it from scratch they could actually have some more CLI control as well and like the Git stuff and you could actually make calls. So something that I was also curious about, but I haven't. I mean, still comfortable with cursor. Let's be honest. What else? What else? What else? What did we went through? DBT Fusion. Is it
Yes, DBT Fusion Engine. Founder Tristan Handy lays out how the freshly launched Fusion Engine, a complete rewrite of DBT Core, will parse 30-fold, will speed parsing 30-fold, enable local execution, and one day transpile SQL across data platforms. I quote, today we launched the DBT Fusion Engine, a complete rewrite of DBT from the ground up. Tristan explains, framing the overhaul as essential for scale. The roadmap suggests DBT could slash warehouse costs and free teams from vendor lock-in, marking a bold shift from incremental tweaks to deep platform bets.
yes? So DBT Fusion actually it's not something super new because actually DBT Fusion came from um another like something that they acquired. What's the name? SDF. Yeah,
Which I didn't know.
you didn't know.
Um, so, like a mini explanation on DBT. So DBT is a tool that is very big today in the ELT scene, extract, load, transform. So and mainly focuses on the T of that transformation. So you have your raw data, you want to do transformations on that, potentially in multiple layers towards multiple different type of destinations, etc. DBT is, I think, today a bit the de facto standard.
Yeah,
There are others, but it is today the de facto
Yeah.
standard. So what they did is that they have overhauled their open source engine, DBT Core, and replaced it with a new one, which is called DBT Fusion, and apparently originates from indeed this acquisition that they did. SDF, it's called?
Yes, SDF.
Which apparently makes the whole execution much faster, optimizes the whole query structure, but also makes it much more intelligent.
And what do you mean by intelligent?
Meaning that if you are writing SQL queries, that your editor, I think they also now published a official VS Code plugin, meaning that you as developer like really get smart syntax highlighting. So let's say you're doing a transformation that is based on another transformation, like even though it doesn't exist yet, this column, because based on this transformation still needs to happen, like in your thing that inherits this, it already knows about that this will exist and what type it will be,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Oh yeah. Indeed.
And that also gives very interesting information on lineage. So before you could see this data set comes from that data set, but now you can actually apparently see this column in dataset B comes from the column in dataset A, and maybe also a column in dataset whatever. Like you really see detailed lineage because of this. So interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and I think also to just double click what you mentioned about DBT, it is written in Python. I think now the Fusion is written in Rust for performance reasons. But basically, it's like you had the nice like the Jinja syntax, the curly braces, that it would basic Python, the code would just replace that for an actual SQL that would run in your Snowflake, your Athena, your whatever, and then you just execute that. But because it's really just replacing and running on the warehouse, you didn't have all that context, right? So I think now, and in the end, like from what I read, right, like everything's because it's the speed. Before it was too slow to do these things on your terminal, on your editor, but now that you can do this very fast because you have this Fusion with Rust-based engine, you can also enable all these things. One of the things they even mention is MCP here somewhere. Like if they want to ask your agent-based chat experience with MCP. So like if they want to say, hey, ChatGPT or whatever model you choose, go do this, do that, and then you can actually query very quickly and you can get the answers back. And before, because it took a long time, especially if you have like a large project, that wouldn't be possible. So I think it's like when I first heard it, and like there was a lot of noise about like, okay, another thing in Rust is okay, it takes some time, but do you really need it? Is it just because of the hype? But I think when you look at the things that they're mentioning, I see how this quality of life improvement can enable a lot of things as well, right? How do
Yeah.
you feel about this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think it allows them to move forward. Like I think it also probably more from a strategic point of view, it gives them more value as a company. I think they've been struggling very much to build extra value with our cloud offering around DBT Core. But I think, and I think arguably that is still very limited value. So you have a lot of companies that are just building on DBT Core themselves and setting up the tooling themselves around it, because it's not like the extra features that they provide are not relevant enough that it really makes it's a game changer.
Yeah, they're not indispensable.
They're not indispensable. And the strategy that they take here is that, like, if you have a proprietary, and what I understand is going to be proprietary, it's not going to be open source, but I might be wrong there, is that they really have something that is a significant step up from open source, makes it a lot more efficient, makes it easier for developers to develop SQL syntax. I mean, that is something that results in less time, less errors, whatever. That's a smart bet, right? Like, aside from all the efficiency gains you get from it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
from a
yeah,
strategic point of view, for them, it's also smart. So yeah, let's see where it turns out.
Yeah, let's see. Indeed, so there is and I just showed put another page here from DBT Labs that the DBT Fusion has a new license because it's written in Rust as well as compiled, right? So and actually, I'm not even sure. Can you if you have a binary, can you reverse the code or no?
Depends where it comes from, and typically it's hard to do.
Yeah, I can imagine it's hard to do.
Always doable, but it's very hard.
So maybe it's also part of like, because if it's in Python, you can always look at the code, right?
Yeah,
Even if you don't
always
make it on
interpret it.
it's like it's always but yeah, so I think I saw something like, they have a separate code. DBT Core, they say it's still going to be available. And I think some parts of the code are going to be available, but some parts are not. Something like that. Yeah. But yeah. Let's see where it's headed. Huh? I mean, but I think again, seems like an interesting thing. And they're not the only parser that was written in Rust. I think there was another one as well, like some experiments that people did that they reached about 30-fold as well improvement. So let's see. What else? Scrappling. I think this one is mine, right? Scrappling. So this is a tool that I came across. Scrappling is an open source Python library that claims stealthy high performance web scraping with automatic adaptation to site changes and anti-bot defenses. Its README highlights that, and I quote, "Scrappling is a high performance intelligent web scraping library for Python that automatically adapts to website changes. More than 5,000 starts since the April 2025 release. The project continues. The project shows continued demand for lightweight, developer-friendly scraping tools that outsmart detection." And I'm going to put this on the screen. So it's another scraper, basically. But apparently it's fast. And I think it's also because I think it's also interesting that comes from the time that LLMs are kind of scraping the web as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are putting stuff to stop them. But they also have some things, again, to bypass these anti-bot measures. Another thing that I thought that was interesting is that they actually have sponsors in the README for this project. So it was a way for, I guess, for him to be able to finance his open source work.
That's interesting.
Yeah, right. And I thought it was also interesting. I haven't had the opportunity to try yet, but I thought it was also interesting that something like Beautiful Soup, something that is very battle tested technologies, are still trying to be reinvented, here and there.
Yeah, this is maybe also a little bit of context here. So what we try to do is every time, like, also in one of the 8 items, like, have like an open source package.
Yeah, something that people can get their hands dirty with.
This is the one today. But interesting, yeah. I've actually like it's the you posted in our chat channel. It's the first time I heard about it. 5,500 stars, which is significant. And why I was surprised is that I did a review of like all the major. I needed a scraper a while back, like
Oh, really?
a few weeks back, actually, not that long ago. I did like Googled a lot, but this one didn't come out.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't. I think they need to work on their SEO.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, 504k stars is a lot.
Yeah.
I think what you see a lot of these modern scrapers, which you do not see with Beautiful Soup, arguably, is that you like they come a bit like better respect. Like they already know like a lot of things you don't need to worry about.
Yeah.
I think of course the interesting thing here is like I think the promise is more like we will not be denied because we hide we're stealthy about being a scraper. It's
Yeah. It's a bit.
and that's a weird thing that has happened over the last years where before I would say something like this would never have, let's say, or have passed the ethics check of the
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
if this is your only premise. But ever since LLMs became very big, and there are a lot of companies that are extremely data hungry, like scraping the web has become like a big thing, and
Yeah.
there's a big need for it, and we don't really think about like, are we allowed to scrape? We're just like explicitly searching for tools that
Yeah. Indeed.
that can do this, even though the counterparty says don't scrape us,
Yeah.
has measures in place to block something that is clearly a scraper.
And it's like this guy's advertising. Look, we can bypass.
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's a
Right.
bit. I don't know, man. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's a bit weird indeed. Yeah, but like even I think OpenAI, they were doing the whole. There was they suing people like they were using the ChatGPT.
Yeah, the bar is very low today.
Yeah,
and every major player like just basically scraped the whole web. And
but it's like I remember OpenAI got mad that someone like was scraping their like or using and then like the whole thing with the Ghibli images, like you were just like
yeah. So yeah,
it's
what is copyright these days, right? It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but are there trials still ongoing? Can something still explode, or you think
there are still ongoing, but they typically take a lot of years. And yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
let's see what comes out.
Let's see. Let's be hopeful. What else?
And even if you make there like the parallel to things like music, copying CD-ROMs, games, stuff like music. It's like it also took years to get to clear law on this.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this is like when it comes to quote unquote copyright, like scraping data, like there's not very like what is the use of that, right? Like it's I think that definition, like what is legal and what is not legal, like it will take it has to go through the courts to get there.
And yeah, this thing is moving way faster.
Yeah, the technology is moving way faster than
the
courts will do. Yeah, that is true.
So that's I think the challenge. What else do we have? We have something here on Apple researchers just released a damning paper that pours water on the entire AI industry. What is this about, Bart?
So an Apple research team argues that leading reasoning language models plateau, and they even collapse in complex puzzles, challenging industry claims of true machine reasoning. The study warns that frontier reasoning models face a complete accuracy collapse beyond certain complexities, calling current performance an illusion of thinking. The finding could temper expectations for next-gen LLMs and intensify scrutiny of benchmarking just as Apple readies its own AI features.
Yeah.
So I put this in because there was a lot of hype, a lot of chatter about this article, basically saying a lot of different sides, like from this is bullshit, what they're saying here, to this is why we will never have AGI. Like, I think like the AI denialists really see this as, see, we were right.
Yeah.
It's not smart.
Yeah.
So what they basically do is that they have like the major test that they look at is I think it's called the Tower of Hanoi. It's a puzzle, and they a puzzle that you can quite easily increase in complexity. And what they basically see is that, like, from a certain moment onwards, like the performance starts degrading or completely collapses. That's a bit what they're.
Yeah.
What is a bit weird, of course, like what makes this a very, let's say, heavy statement, what they say, like, on this paper, is that this illusion of thinking is that because it's Apple that is publishing this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, to be honest, like, and I haven't really looked into it, but it's big because it's our people from Apple. I'm not sure how much this comes to
The actual Apple.
like, is this just another paper that Apple published? Like, there are thousands of research papers, or is this more formal?
Yeah.
So I don't know that. I think I'm a little bit skeptical on this, because the reasoning is also in the paper is that what we see, that like the good performance on benchmarks that we see, is that we question the benchmarks a bit. Is that over time, a lot of the things in these benchmarks might be in the training data, that we have contamination, so that we're overestimating the performance of these models, of these reasoning models. At the same time, and that's the counter argument to this, is that, like, the Tower of Hanoi is like, I mean, there's a Wikipedia page on what the Tower of Hanoi is like. So so this is, I don't think it's really an argument that you can make. It's also a very specific puzzle, where you can make the argument like it's not really relevant to whatever we do with these models.
Yeah, I think when you try to really measure what intelligence really is, it also gets really tricky, right?
Yeah, so I think it's a very big statement. So basically, what they say is that reasoning is not reasoning, and yeah, okay, sure, right? Like, what's in a word, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. Like, I mean, it's still bits and bytes, right? Like, it's whatever is reasoning in that context.
Yeah.
But what we do see is that, like, when you add reasoning to a lot of base tests, that the performance improves. Not on all, but on a lot of them it improves.
Yeah. I think yes, but I think to me, it kind of goes back to this being a tool, right? Like, it's I feel like the resistance or the promotion that this is intelligence, that this is like AGI and all these things, is a bit counterproductive, because I do feel like, when you look at reasoning and you look at complex tests, I think it's okay, benchmarks are subjective, but I think we can kind of all agree that they help the performance, right? They help the usually
for
the model
targets, they're better.
Exactly.
Right?
So okay, the reasoning, maybe it's not this, maybe it's not that, blah blah. Like, okay, but it does help you to get a better output, right? But one thing I heard as well, and this is from the data roots chat, and I don't know if it's this paper, so that's why I wanted to ask you, that they were also saying that reasoning models, if the task is simple, they could overthink.
Yeah.
Was it this paper that also was saying that, or was it another one? Because I know
I don't know, to be honest, but I think there's general consensus indeed. Yeah. So when I translate that to my own efforts in GenAI assisted coding, so when you use something like Line or Cursor, for that matter, like, you can very specifically say, for these type of tasks, use this model.
Yeah.
Right. What I, until recently, when switching to Cloud Code, what I typically did is, for code edits or generation, I use a non-reasoning model. But for let's say building an architectural plan, like building a plan to build a feature, you use a reasoning model.
Yeah.
And this typically works very well. So the architecture plan is better, but also the code editing is better without reasoning, because sometimes what you get when you add reasoning to code generation or to code editing, like, it starts making too complex like patterns, like things that are not needed, like elaborating on things that are just
it's
like you over complexify.
Yeah. I also felt that, but I think that's also the thing, and that's why for me, I say, like, you should really think of it as a tool.
Exactly.
Because it's like, some things is going to be better that, some things is going to be better this. You need to learn how to use it. These things are going to evolve. These things are going to change.
I think the important thing of this article, that's also a bit why I put it in there. Like, well, one, it was very much hyping, but this week, but also, like, I think, like, don't take this as an argument not to invest in AI.
Yeah, for sure.
Not to invest in understanding reasoning, like, test all these models and do what works for you.
Yeah, Yeah, no, but I think I fully agree, right? It's like, yeah, maybe this is not actual intelligence, but if you're not gonna use it, is like it still helps you, right? So true, 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 true. I also wonder because Apple, they really fumbled the whole AI story, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they really fumble, and there was even an article that I haven't, I think I skimmed through it, that they were saying that they were being very critical of Apple because they really fumbled the Apple Intelligence thing. They roll it back, and maybe they're saying like maybe Apple needs to maybe acquire a company that is doing well, but it's been very anti-Apple as well thing to do. So, but they would be very like Apple has had Siri for so long. Siri has never been like the solution to all your problems. Um, Now they had the Apple Intelligence thing that was also fumbling a lot with the notifications and all these things. They had to roll it back, and now we are 2025. We see all these models, and Apple hasn't like
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think.
And now we hear this paper about Apple criticizing AI, which feels a bit
um, yeah, that's also a bit how it's by some in the community is being perceived now. This
Right.
is just Apple trying to defend
yeah, it's a bit
why they're not better.
it's like,
But I think like this is an interesting point. Like Apple just had their keynote. There's some interesting stuff coming out of that when it comes to AI as well. Maybe something we can touch on next time.
yes, maybe something we can dive a bit deeper, and I'll also look for that paper as well, and then
Because I tend to be, and I also already said the context, I tend to be more positive on Apple in this. But
yeah,
let's discuss this.
we
next time.
discuss it next time. I'll also think a bit more before, come more prepared. And the last one here.
The last one is sad news.
Yes. Bill Atkinson dies from cancer at age 74. John Gruber reports that pioneering Macintosh programmer Bill Atkinson passed away at home on June 5th after battling pancreatic cancer. His family shared that, and I quote, he was at home in Portola Valley in his bed, surrounded by family. Remembering him as a remarkable person, Gruber calls Atkinson perhaps the most essential, quoting him, coder in the original Mac team, noting his innovations in QuickDraw, MacPaint, HyperCard still shape the software today. Yeah,
Yeah, that's well, rest in peace.
indeed. Rest in peace.
Bill Atkinson apparently
Yeah.
played a huge role in the very early days at Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Question mark: would our MacBook look the same if he would not have been part of it? Probably not.
Probably not.
So the things that he worked on is also he developed a lot of efficient algorithms to write graphical interface to the screen. Something that really, like, I mean, shaped Apple who they are, of course. I also worked on applications like MacPaint and something which I find very cool, HyperCard.
Don't know HyperCard.
Which so HyperCard was this a sort like a bit like you can make a slide deck, but you could add functionality on these things. Like you could have a button that you could click and it would go, instead of the next slide, it would go to something else. And like you can really make through this logic that like it was rich enough to really build applications.
Okay. Cool.
A bit like maybe people from our age like have used Microsoft Access.
Yeah.
Like there's a database and you can build some visual stuff on top of that to have your own application. A bit like Power Apps. Yeah.
Okay.
And you still have some very cool. That's also I actually played around with a few years ago. You have some cool open source implementations of HyperCard.
Oh, really?
Because HyperCard itself, I think it was released when I was only a few years old, so
really?
I never used it myself when I was there. But yeah, I think it's I mean, when someone has been so
influential, right?
So influential in something that well, I and you as well when it comes to Mac products and Apple products use so much. I think it's worth
for sure. No, it's good that you bring this as well. I think also I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's always just looking back, but you feel like the contributions back then, I don't know. I feel like it's so easy to do things today.
Yeah. Well, it's actually maybe a listening tip.
Yeah.
To start with, to stop with. I'm thinking now where there was a recent, quite recent, like in the last 2 weeks, there was a Steve Ballmer interview, I think by Nilay Patel of Decoder, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think it was on
Yeah.
Decoder.
Uh-huh.
It was super interesting. Like I would recommend everybody to listen to it.
Yeah.
But also when you hear him talking about the early days, and that's a bit like the same days that Bill Atkinson really built his stuff. Like you didn't have when we talk about developers now, and we're in Leuven, like
Developers,
3 houses over, there's a developer, right? Like, and then you have a lot of neighbors that are developers.
Yeah.
But back then, it was basically like you had IBM, and you had Microsoft, and then at some point you had Apple, but in between those, there were not a lot of developers even existing. Like you had very few.
Yeah, it's true.
Developer groups.
Yeah,
so it's a completely different field, and like a lot of the things that we take for granted today still had to be invented. Like how do you write efficiently? How do you draw a rectangle on the screen?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's everything.
Apparently, like he worked also on an efficient algorithm for a rounded rectangle. So a rectangle
with rounded edges. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like even like today, I feel like I can kind of build an end-to-end app kind of myself. Right. I can use the cloud. Like I don't need infrastructure. I don't need to know the cables. I don't need to know anything. Everything's really abstracted. There's a lot. I mean, and now you add the AI layer to it. Like yeah, like, but looking back, like the people that really needed to, like they need to rack servers. They need to understand. They need to move the thing. Like it's another level. Right. So when you think of these people, like, and the contributions and the impact that it has, right? Like having someone, like one bright person that really moves things forward, right? Exactly. True. And I think that's it for today.
That's it for today. What did you think about this new format? This is the first time that we do this?
I think it's good. It's like 70% there, I would say.
Yeah, I think we should, like the parts that we read from the article should be slightly shorter.
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe we need to be able to reorder them a bit, so we can like kind of more naturally follow logical, or just cross it off if we already talked about it. But I like it. I think it's again like it's I think it's a step in the right direction as well. It's also good because sometimes we read this throughout the week. So if you have this little summary, it's like it's reminders. Like
definitely.
Definitely. So true. Cool. If anyone has any thoughts as well,
give us feedback. That would be cool. Rate us on wherever you're listening to your podcast.
Yes.
Quickest way to do this is just to click on the 5 stars.
Yes. Yeah. It's just the quickest way to rate. It's just there. Like it's closer to most people are right-handed.
Yeah.
It's closer to the right. It's just like it's the if you want. Yeah. And I know your time is valuable too, so that's why we are just leaving this up. Yeah. So that's it. Anything else?
That's it. We'll see you all next week.
Yes. Now it's a weekly thing.
That's a weekly thing.
Yes. See you next week, Bart. And do we have an outro song? No, it's the same.
No. Oh, and so we'll do this weekly thing, right? And we're also gonna, maybe we said it when we did the pre-recording, the first one. We're gonna also try to have some guests.
Yes.
I actually have an interesting one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That is working at the government on AI legislation.
Oh, don't spoil it too much.
No.
Yeah. All right, Bart. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilo.
And thank you for listening. No, maybe it's too much.
don't look at the video for the last second. Just listen.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you later. Ciao. Let me do that. There's no pop now.
So. This is more of like an intro thing, right?
Yeah, this is more of an intro.
We need to reverse it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next time.
Okay.
Cheers.